Good evening. Welcome to this day two part of the group phase. My name is Aurélien Orange, and together with my colleague Anna Maria Urbanova, we'll be having a first match for this day two. So it is the second match. So I give the floor to my colleague for this match.
Thank you very much. As my colleague said, my name is Anna Maria Urbanova. I'm your host for today's match. Welcome to you all on behalf of Quarks Foundation in the first match of the round 2 of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. We welcome the debaters from the debate team of University of Antioquia and the University of Botswana. We're also delighted to welcome one of our 3 judges for today's match, Professor Johnston, who's joining us from Europe. There's also 2 other judges that will be joining, possibly to watch the video also live. There are 2 business days to review and score the teams. So once the scores are received from all 3 judges, they are then validated and provided to the teams. Again, it's a pleasure to welcome you all. The debate statement for today's match is that the legislation, both national and international, should place limitations on the extent of commercial sponsorships in professional sports. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for confirmation. And on the account, without further much ado from my side, it's time to learn more about today's debaters, starting with debaters of University of Antioquia. Ms. Ordóñez, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Melissa Ordóñez. I'm a law student from the University of Antioquia, and I wish you the best of luck today.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Joining us from the University of Botswana, Ms. Setilo, the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Neo Sidilo, and I am a 4th-year law student at the University of Botswana.
Thank you and welcome. From University of Antioquia, Ms. Vasquez, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Valeria Romero Vasquez. It's a pleasure to be here today and wishing all of the success to you.
Thank you. Welcome. And of course, University of Botswana, Ms. Njonde.
Good evening. My name is Ruby Njonde, and I'm a 3rd-year student at the University of Botswana, and I'm very happy to meet all of you.
Thank you. Welcome. And completing the team from University of Antioquia, Ms. Barbosa.
Good evening to everyone from Colombia. I am Michelle Barbosa, and I am a student from the University of Antioquia, and it's an honor to be here today.
Thank you. Welcome. Today we also have present one of the coaches for the University of Antioquia, Professor Duke.
Good evening. My name is Camilo Arango. I am a professor at University of Antioquia of International Law, and I would like to wish great success to all participants.
Thank you and welcome. The debaters of University of Antioquia are also coached, as we know, by Professor Galeano, and the University of Botswana is also coached by Arthur Henry. So, well, greetings and regards to the mentors of the 2 teams as well. And delighted to also welcome Professor Johnston for another edition, joining us as a judge for the competition.
Thank you. I really look forward to learning more about this topic and, more importantly, seeing as you develop your debate skills. I hope we can give you some good feedback, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot no matter what happens today.
Microphone.
My apologies. So in a short while, you will see the screen with the allocation of the positions. So please just give me a verbal okay when you can see the screen.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So as per usual, there are 2 positions available for each team. So all in all, 4 options to allocate the position. In a short while, we'll know which position is defended by which team. All right. So for today's match, the position in favor will be defended by the debaters of University of Botswana, and the position against will be defended by the debate team of University of Antioquia. So there will be now 5 minutes to finalize your positions. You can close your cameras and microphones, and after the time is up, the team in favor will be starting the debate.
Okay. Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Yes, I'm so sorry. May you please repeat the positions again?
So the position in favor is defended by your team. So University of Botswana is defending in favor, and the position against is defended by University of Antioquia's debate team.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime. Thank you very much. So the time for final preparation is now over. We'll be starting with the position in favor defended by the debating team of University of Botswana. To confirm, the debate statement today is that the legislation, both national and international, should place limitations on the extent of commercial sponsorships in professional sports. So on the side of the debaters, we'll be starting with the opening statement. When there are 30 seconds left from my video, you'll see a yellow notification, or if you cannot see the color, then there's also a text. And when your time is up, you'll see a red notification. Of course, you can comfortably conclude your sentences. So on this account, the debaters of University of Botswana, you now have 4 minutes for your opening statements. Whenever you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day. Before you is Nawa, and I am debating in favor of the motion before us, which is legislation, both national and international, should place limitations on the extent of commercial sponsorship in professional sports. Now, to break down the motion for a better comprehension and understanding, we need to understand what extent of commercial sponsorships in professional sports entails. Now, basically, what the motion is telling us is that it is seeking to limit or reduce the degree in which there is a marketing relationship in which a company pays for the right to be associated with a project or program, in our context being athletes. We seek to reduce this through legislation. Now, basically, what exactly are we saying when we are saying we're in favor of this? We need to highlight the context or problem that has led to the debate before us. We are living in a society where the bargaining power scale is tipped more in favor of the sponsors than it is for the sponsored. In our context, the sponsored being the sports athletes. Now, we find ourselves in a situation where athletes are more at a disadvantage because they are now looking at commercializing their careers and making more money out of the sports that they're doing, or the images rather that they've created for themselves through the sports. So what happens is that brand deals and endorsers take advantage of this and decide to do what? And they decide to enter into contractual relationships with these athletes, wherein they use their brands and images in exchange for promoting and endorsing and boosting the sales for whatever product that they are trying to push. Now, our position as side government is that we are saying, yes, we seek to put in legislation both at the national and at the international level in order to limit the extent of commercial sponsorships. Now, why exactly do we adopt this position or stance? Our reason is to even out the odds and the bargaining power between athletes as well as endorsers. Why do we seek to do this? We want a situation where there is no party that is disadvantaged or no party that is making the other one suffer, only looking at their own selfish needs and desires. Now, as it stands, if we look at the sports scene, we will realize and take into consideration the fact that commercial sponsorships involve, as it stands, providing financial aid and resources to sports teams or athletes in exchange for brand visibility. Now, what exactly does this involve? This involves things like athlete endorsements to boost merchandise sales. Now, the existing relationships that we can point at is the famous CR7 known as Cristiano Ronaldo, who has been in the sports industry for a very long time as a football player. He has been in a contract with Nike since 2013, which he has signed for $1 billion in exchange for promoting Nike merchandise. Another famous example of an athlete who is in an endorsement deal is Kevin Durant, who's a famous NBA player, that is to say a basketball player, who has signed with Nike as well since 2016, and then went on to Under Armour, then went back to Nike for a deal for $300 million. Now, what exactly is our reasons for advancing that we should put in stricter legislation both at the national and international level? Now, first and foremost, we need to appreciate that at the national level, law is more of a contentious value, whereas at the international level, it's more advisory. This is to say that advisory meaning that international law is not necessarily as strict and as easily enforceable as national law. So what exactly are we saying? So we are saying that if we put in stricter legislation, we will be able to curb this problem of having a situation where either party to the agreement is a disadvantage, and as this problem stands under the status quo, we find ourselves in a situation where endorsers are more advantaged than the endorsed. Now, what we seek to achieve is first, One, if we put in stricter legislation that limits extent of commercial sponsorships, we have a situation where we minimize or reduce the chances of athletes being manipulated or exploited to suit the sponsors' needs, as well as we find ourselves protecting sponsors from athletes willingly pulling out at a time that disadvantages the sponsors, or double dipping and co-signing with competing sponsors. With that said, we rest our argument aside government as to why we agree with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the opening statement in the against position, debating with the University of Antioquia. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Before I start, may I confirm if I'm audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. So I'll start now. We express gratitude to the organizing team of the COREX Foundation for hosting us and to our colleagues from Botswana University for sharing this experience with all of us. As a team, we will present arguments based on international law instruments in line with the given statement. Legislation, both national and international, should not place limitations on the extent of commercial sponsorship in professional sports. To begin, I will present as a first important point that how limitations could undermine the contractual rights and freedoms of athletes and organizations that are vital for the economic viability of modern sports. Then my team and Valeria will argue that how commercial sponsorships are essentially for the success of major sporting events and the sport industry, while also protecting the labor rights of athletes and generating visibility for them. Finally, my teammate Michelle will bring to the discussion that commercial sponsorship generates significant economic benefits for companies and athletes. According to the definition from the Cambridge Dictionary, sponsorship is money that is given, usually by a company, to support a person, organization, or activity. This financial support takes on significant dimensions when considering the exhausting and costly reality of practicing a sport professionally. In the midst of the challenging environment of professional sports, athletes find relief by meeting their essential needs for equipment, championship costs, income, and others in exchange for sharing their dedication and effort. This delicate balance, sacrifice, and reward creates a special connection that evokes feelings of admiration and empathy for those who persevere in the pursuit of excellence in their discipline. So, careful consideration must be given to how such restrictions could impact the fundamental rights of athletes and potentially have negative effects on the sports economy. For example, imposing strict limits on the amount or scope of sponsorship could affect the ability of professional athletes to earn fair and proportionate income based on the value they generate with their image and reputation. This could be perceived as a violation of the right to decent work and favorable working conditions protected by instruments such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Furthermore, general legal principles such as autonomy of will and freedom of contract are fundamental pillars that validate contract agreements between parties. If legislation were to limit these possibilities and conditions, it could constitute an affront to the autonomy of will of athletes and brands to negotiate mutually beneficial agreements. Similarly, it would derive value from these commercial partnerships. To illustrate, in the European Super League case, the European Court of Justice on 2023 upheld the freedom of association of leagues and clubs in the face of FIFA and UEFA's monopolistic attempts to control the European competitions. By defending the autonomy of leagues and teams to self-organize, the court secured their freedom to benefit from their commercial assets, which include precisely sponsorship deals without external interference or restrictions. Similarly, another case from the same court, in the International Skating Union case, the rules in question specialized provided skaters from obtaining their own sponsorship in events not sanctioned by the issue. By declaring this illegal, the European Court affirmed that athletes have the freedom to capitalize on their image and reputations by entering into sponsorship contracts with whom they choose without arbitrary external restrictions on the part of the federations. In both cases, the ruling protected the ability of leagues, clubs, and athletes to negotiate sponsorship agreements in exercise of their rights and freedoms, emphasizing that limiting this faculty undermines the recognizing fundamental guarantees. Commercial sponsorship have become an indispensable component of the economic framework supporting modern professional sports. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This concludes the opening statements for both teams. Starting with the first round of rebuttals, University of Botswana, you have 2 minutes.
Greetings to the House at large. I'd like to start with my rebuttals, and I'm going to go on to reinforce and emphasize on our main arguments. Now, firstly, the opposing side came and talked about the negative effects on the sports economy if we were to place limitations on commercial sponsorships in sports, in professional sports around the world. Now, we believe that the negative effects on this economy can still be, there are other ways of generating revenue, even if we were to place on limitations, stricter limitations, not a complete ban on the commercial sponsorships in professional sports, but simply stricter regulations and rules to avoid the exploitation of both the sponsored and the sponsors in every time that they make a contract. And so we believe that these negative effects on the sports economy can still be revitalized or brought by broadcasting rights, by ticketing rights, by selling tickets, and these other ways of generating revenue besides just sponsorship. And what we want to do is to make sure that the sports world and the sports economy doesn't have an over-reliance or over-dependence on sponsorships, because we see that this has negative repercussions, both socially, morally, and economically, both on the sponsors and the sponsored. And so we believe that it is vitally important for them not to be over-reliant or over-dependent on these sponsorships, which is why we're placing limitations on them in the first place. They came secondly and talked about violation of their freedom to contract or autonomy of will. However, we believe that where there is rampant and blatant exploitation of athletes and clubs by sponsors, and where existing legislation fails to adequately provide for the protection of both the sponsors and the sponsored. And we have situations where we have athletes like Randa Kaur, who's a cyclist, who was manipulated into a sponsorship deal with Over the Bloom. And it's a sporting goods company. And he was forced to stay with them, have an exclusive contract with them, because he did not have the legal means or the legal power to be able to fight for his fair rights. And so we believe that it is very, very important that we advocate for the limitation of these rights and these sponsorship deals, because we want to be able to promote a fair and equal society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the position against, University of Antioquia, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. May I confirm that I'm audible and visible, please?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I appreciate the arguments presented by the opposing team, but we respectfully find ourselves in disagreement because it generalizes how two profits are shared, because it's really mentioning how both earn differently due to their contract relationships, because clearly their obligation and demands are different between parties, and that happens normally in different legal business, not necessarily in this aspect. Contrary to this, the athletes can benefit quite well because of the importance of sponsorships in sports worlds. They not only improve the conditions under which sports events take place, but also protect the athletes' right to work and generate visibility for them. For example, major events such as Formula One would not be possible without the backing of sponsors. Could we have a Davis Cup without the intervention of Rolex? Or could we have the Olympic Games without the Coca-Cola, their oldest sponsor, since 1928? The most significant revenues at events such as the FIFA World Cup come from the television rights and marketing rights. It is important to consider that the sponsorships provide the intervention of many athletes promoting sports as a human right, as well as the right of publicity, protecting the right to receive compensation for authority advertisements, who allow athletes to access all their financial benefits even after retirement, following the principles of corporate social responsibility outlined in the United Nations Guiding Principles of Business and Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. In the case of NASCAR and AT&T, the dispute over the change of the logo of James Burton had highlighted the importance of sponsorships in sports, and there are already limits to the agreements to ensure a fair balance between commercial interests and all of the parties involved. Further limiting sponsors' interventions could diminish athletes' revenue and harm the organization of major sporting events, as well as the overall economics of the sports industry, given their essential roles in the success of the global sports industry and the careers of many athletes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes the first round of rebuttals. For the second round, position in favor, University of Botswana, you have 2 minutes.
Good day once more, starting off with our rebuttals as side government. Now, side opposition was advancing or proposing that if we were to put on stricter legislation to limit the extent of commercial sponsorships, this is going to lead to a scenario wherein we have diminished revenue from the side of the athletes, as well as also on the economy of a state, given how it brings in or reels in a lot of revenue into a country or a state. Now, we in response to that are also saying that this is not likely to be the case for the reason that when we're imposing stricter limitations on the extent of commercial sponsorship, we are not saying that we are taking out sponsorship, commercial endorsement and sponsorship of athletes altogether. What we're saying is we are trying to fix the problem of having a situation where the balancing power or bargaining power is imbalanced, and we have a situation where there's prejudice between the people who are before us, that is the sponsored and the sponsored and the sponsors. What we are trying to do is fix that problem, and we do not foresee how these problems that side opposition is advancing are likely to occur, because this, as it stands, will still the relationship of endorsement will still be there and will not change. So we fail to appreciate side opposition's advancement. Another thing was that they were saying that it will be undermining the contractual rights of the athlete's autonomy and free will to contract. We are saying that granted, but when we weigh this problem of contractual freedom vis-a-vis the problem of selfishness that comes into the situation and in consideration, because everybody's looking out for their own interests without having regard as to whether or not there's fairness in whatever it is that they're contracting or negotiating for, then we end up seeing that we prefer a situation where we put first their rights over their freedoms, because when the freedoms are now competing and are now clashing, and if they're competing and clashing, we have a situation where now we have to pick one's freedom over the other. We are trying to avoid that situation. We are trying to create an environment where it is equal for everyone involved. Now, with that said, we rest our rebuttals as side government.
Thank you very much. For the position against, team of University of Antioquia, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. May I confirm that I am audible and visible to this?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Thank you to my colleagues from the University Botswana, but we must respectfully disagree. Before I start, I would like to address something about the opening speaker said before. She affirms in her speech that there is a major economic benefit to the sponsors than to the sponsor. And that is the reason why there must exist a limitation, which clearly results in a generalization, because forget that a sponsorship contract, in addition to generating great economic benefits for companies, provides a huge source of income for athletes who do not have the external recognition, nor governmental support to finance their sporting needs, which clearly goes against the Article 1.2 of the International Charter of Physical Education, Physical Activity, and Sport. As a result, it is a beneficial relationship for both parties. It allows rights such as exclusivity, status for the athlete, rewards, and building commercial partnerships. In the 70s, the Nike brand associated with Mr. Jordan, resulting in a recovery in Nike's position and promoting the athlete's brand. On top of that, a sponsorship contract limitation is an expression of restrictions to the legitimacy of federations and organizations in sports. To illustrate, at the 2023 year, when the European Court of Justice established in the ES Royal Antwerp Football Club versus Royal Belgian Union of Association Football Societies case, that competitions are regulated by sport organizations, and there are not necessarily more domestic or international restrictions, because it imposes a limitation on their faculties. Limiting the extent of commercial sponsorship will go against the principle of contractual freedom and parties' autonomy, and to the right of sport federations to commercialize its activities, being extra-regulating the private sphere of legal business, because the athlete has complete autonomy to decide what his personality's economic use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This now concludes the stage of rebuttals. Opening up with the concluding statements and the debate team of University of Botswana, you have 2 minutes.
Hello. So we came and talked to you here about three main arguments, which is the exploitation and manipulation of sponsored parties, because there's an over-reliance on sponsorship to maintain sport careers or maintain the sport team, etc., when they could be relying more on broadcasting rights, merchandising, ticketing, sales, etc. Secondly, we talked about the protection of sponsors and how this is very important, because these contracts tend to be very one-sided, or they tend to be exploited, or because of not very clear moral clauses and other problems within the law, and which is going to be verified and rectified by supporting limitations. This will be able to enable them to have more fair contracts, which is why we vote for more state interference and for stricter rules and regulations on sponsorship agreements to prevent the exploitation of either party. We also came and talked about the negative social influence on the sport, and how alcohol and betting brands such as had playing shirts sponsored by gambling companies, and these have a negative effect on both the sponsors, the public, and the sport itself, because you have these young, impressionable young adults encouraging them to drink, and this can be perceived as glorifying alcohol because there are no limitations on which kind of sponsors actually sponsor these events. So you have football games being sponsored by alcohol brands, by betting companies, by gambling companies, and this tends to increase betting and increase alcohol consumption within society. We have gambling accounts for 15.4% of main sponsorship brands in soccer in the UK. And alcohol brands have showed that 7 studies involving 12,000 participants aged 13 to 18 showed a direct correlation between the two. And so we have also showed that what we've meant by limitations would look like something like the UK advertising codes, rules on content, targeting, and placement of gambling adverts, no promotion by junior sections of club websites. And we don't believe that these clubs are able to self-regulate themselves, because even when the Premier League was able to impose a ban restricting betting companies from being able to do front shirt advertisements on their shirts, they still allow these betting companies to do sleeve advertisements, to do stadium advertisements. So these clubs aren't able to self-regulate themselves, because at the end of the day, they still only want profits. And we believe the state must get involved and must intervene in order to ensure that there are fair contractual rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the concluding statement in the against position, team of University of Antioquia, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our colleagues in Botswana and all the team in The Hague. It has been a pleasure having this debate. And we would like the judges to please consider the argument we have presented. That what had been said by the Botswana teams, there are some of erroneous arguments based on the fact that, first, we understand the opposing team's concerns about the profit split looks like, and because of that, we can fit our conclusion during this debate. First, as my team and Melissa mentioned, imposing strict limits on athlete sponsorships could potentially violate athletes' fundamental rights, such as the right to decent work and favorable working conditions as protected by international instruments. Second, the sponsors have a crucial role in the events, which makes for a scenario that promotes not only the sport, but also the right of individuals, companies, having significant revenues, and without ignoring the need to balance commercial interest and the right of all those involved in the sporting world from the competence of the federations. Finally, in accordance with what has been said by my team and Michelle, they take care to benefit both parties. Contractual relationships provide a significant source of income for athletes who may not have a strong recognition or governmental support. Limiting the extent of commercial sponsorships will infringe on the contractual freedom and the autonomy of the parties involved. In conclusion, legislation, both national and international, should not place limitations on the extent of commercial sponsorships in professional sports. Doing so could violate athletes' fundamental rights, contractual freedom, and autonomy, and upset the balance between commercial interests and individual rights in sports. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. This concludes the match between the University of Antioquia debate team and debate team of University of Botswana. Well done. You can take a breather, you can relax. You're no longer in the graded part of the day session. As per usual, we'll do a short feedback session with all the participants. Then the coach of the team that is present in the match will also have a few seconds to say feedback if that would be of interest. And of course, one of our 3 judges, if there's a feedback that Professor Johnston would like to share with the teams on the spot, then that's also an opportunity. So starting with the debate team of University of Antioquia, Ms. Ordóñez, how did you find today's match? Did you perhaps already have this topic earlier in your studies?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, the University of Botswana also. I think this topic was very challenging. After the investigation, I know I get that I didn't have a previous preparation of those topics in my academic life, but with this investigation, I think it has been very nutritive to talk about sports rights and this kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really great.
Thank you very much. From University of Botswana, Ms. Njonde, how did you find today's topic? Did you perhaps encounter it already in your studies?
Hello. I found the debate very engaging. I thought it was really good to be able to discuss this topic, because I feel like it's not something we really focus on even in law studies. Sports law is like a very niche part of the law. So it's like, it was interesting to do more research about it. I thought it was interesting to learn more about this. And I thought the debate was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. From University of Antioquia, Ms. Barbosa, how did you find today's match? Did you perhaps hear some topics from the other side that you have prepared also for your team?
Thank you. For me, I have never had contact with this statement nor sponsorship contracts, for example, and it was something really new for me. But I think that at the end of the day, like we all, the university, Botswana University, and we all did a really good job.
Thank you very much. From University of Botswana, Ms. Satila, how did you find today's match? Is there anything you would like to share with the other team, perhaps?
Thank you very much for the debate again. I found the topic to be quite different. Again, like Ruby had said, it's quite different in terms of content because it's not really curriculum based. Our debate here was mostly based off of research, but in terms of like national and international law, those are things that we have covered in our studies, like in terms of the persuasive value and that binding effect. But as far as the topic of sports is concerned, it's more of a specialized area of law. So this is all very new and very eye-opening. And it was a pleasure having this debate with you all.
Thank you very much. And from University of Antioquia, Ms. Vasquez, how did you find today's match? Is there anything you would like to share with the other team?
Thank you. The topic was very challenging for us because, and I agree with our teammates from Botswana, it's not usually studied like international law. So for me, it was so weird, but so enriching. Know that both of the teams, it was very interesting to see how we had similar arguments, because we share a lot of arguments that they did in the pro. So yes.
Thank you very much. Professor Duke, if you would like to share anything with the teams, how did you find today's match?
Well, it's always a pleasure to hear young colleagues developing smart and interesting ideas. So in both teams, so good job. Right.
Thank you. Professor Johnston, is there anything you can already share with the teams at the end of their match?
Yeah, I just want to say well done, everyone. That was, I think, your first debate in the competition, and all of you did a wonderful job. It's going to be really hard to come to a conclusion on this. I'm going to have to go through every single criterion individually and try and come to some decision, but you all should be really proud of your first debate.
Thank you very much. For the two teams in your day 3, just a little administration. In your day 3, the University of Antioquia will meet the team of King's College in London, and the University of Botswana will meet the Monash University from Australia. So you will all have your day 1, day 2, and day 3 matches. So you will have those debates in about 2 weeks. So in about a week, you'll receive your topics and links to access the matches. And that would be all from my side on today's match. I pass the floor to my colleague, who will host the final part of today's session.
Yes, many thanks. Yes, for this last part of the session, it's about, of course, the cultural aspect, but as well about your own future careers. I was thinking maybe for this day 2, I could ask the students, particularly, participating to this debate, if they could share with us which kind of careers they would like to have as well in their respective countries. So, I mean, you can tell briefly, of course, based on your studies, legal studies, what you are targeting in which area or which job eventually you like to work. So, for example, Miss Melissa Ordonez Henao, could you say which type of legal career you would like?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Mm-hmm. Yes, which type of career would you like after your studies? You're studying law, which type of career?
Okay, I like to be focused on litigation, mostly family litigation in Colombia. So that's what I'm focusing right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Miss Ruby Ndionde in Botswana, which career would you like to have after the end of your studies?
I would like to go into media law. It's because I've done media communications and journalism before, so I want to mix it together with my law degree. And yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Miss Valeria Cecilia Romero Vasquez.
Thank you. I would like to follow the line of international law, maybe some of financial law. And I'm not so close to be only here in Colombia, so we are going to find it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much. And as well, the second member of the team in Botswana, which career you would like after your studies?
I'm interested in private international law as well as some aspects of corporate governance laws as well.
Thank you very much. Miss Barbosa Gonzalez?
Yes, for me, I like international public law a lot, and I want to like stay in this topic.
Okay, thank you
when
very
I finish my career.
Okay, thank you. The reason why actually I gave this question is because it's an opportunity, of course, to network, because you never know in the future if you'd like to have an expert in those fields coming from, for example, countries where you had a debate with. So after this match, for example, if you want to keep contact with the opposing team between Colombia, Botswana, because in the future you might need an expert in Colombian law or in law of Botswana, so that would be a good opportunity. So that's why I gave this question. Again, on my side and the side of my colleague, congratulations for this match. I was listening carefully everything, and I think it will be indeed very difficult for the three judges. Just for you to have an idea, there is one judge, Professor Johnson, who is in Iceland, another judge who is in Estonia, another judge who is in the Netherlands. So these three judges will be giving their assessment. Maybe they're watching on YouTube the match. And in a few days you will receive the result. And yes, then you will receive days after the topic for your third match. So many thanks again. And we keep in touch, of course. And well done again for this match. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank